This is the Algo Futures Trader Weekly Market Roundup, and this is looking at Wednesday's trading action here. This is our AFT 7 for NinjaTrader 7. This is an opening morning breakout strategy. It's pre-programmed, so the template is built in. It trades, in this case, 3 micro lots, whether you're trading the micro Dow, Nasdaq, S&P, Russell. Now this can be set to automatically trade. So if I just turn automatic trading on, it's going to take all the signals, whether it breaks out to the long side, to the downside. It's going to take all the signals until you shut it off. All right? Or what we choose to do is use the semi-autonomous mode here and just choose which direction that we want to trade in. All right? So on Wednesday, what we do is we take a look at our alpha web trader. What this does is it allows us before the market opens to take a look and see what markets are strong, which markets are weak, what is the trend. You know, if the trend is down, what is the weakest market? Let's short the weakest market or look for a breakout to the downside. If the markets are trending higher, and we want to look and see what is the strongest market and get long the strongest market. One of the other things we'll look at is this little gap indicator here, because we know that these inside gaps, a market that opens inside the prior day's range, has a tendency to fill that gap about 70% of the time. So that's a nice little filter to be aware of. On Wednesday, though, we had the opposite. We had what we call an outside gap down. So this filter, you can see it where it says OGU. That stands for outside gap up. On Wednesday, this would have said OGD, or outside gap down. And what that's telling us is the market has gapped outside the prior day's range. So in this case, Wednesday, we traded or opened below the prior day's low. So here's the prior day here. This is the 9:30 a.m. open to the 4:15. We use a 4:15 close here. All right, so here was all the action during that period. And you can see the next day we opened here completely below the prior day's low. So on an outside, you see it says outside gap down equals a short bias, because when the market opens outside the prior day's range like that, the tendency is they're not going to fill this gap back to the prior day's close. In other words, they're not going to trade higher here to try to close that gap between the that day's open and the prior day's 4:15 or 5, whatever close that you use. In this case, when we open outside the prior day's range, so in this case we open down below the prior day's close and below the prior day's low. And in that case, the tendency is you get a trend type day, in this case to the downside. And usually it's a trend that'll last for the morning, sometimes the entire day. All right, just depends on what else is going on. So in that case, all we want to do, if we're using our semi-autonomous mode here, is just check this short button, and it says it's going to take the next short trade. So once the market opens, if we just kind of go back here, open this up a little bit, right? So here was our 9:30 open, right? We already have this set to trade automatically, the next short trade, because we have an outside gap down, and that favors the short side. There's a high probability if this thing triggers to the short side, we're going to get some follow through. All right, so you can see it triggered short. So the signal was generated by the software. It sent it to what we call a Ninja Buddy here, and this is telling it to take the next short trade, which it does. And from there, our job is done, because once we set this to trade in the direction we want to trade and what market we want to trade, it takes care of the rest. It's going to short 3 micro contracts in this case. It's going to have a first target, and it's going to have a final target. In the meantime, it will also trail with the trailing stop, and it's very, very smart technology, if you will. So it generated the short signal. Now the difficulty on this day was the Dow was the only market that had this outside gap down. For instance, the S&P had an inside gap down, which meant it wanted to move higher to fill its gap, which it's a 70% probability. And so the Dow was kind of fighting that. Correlated market was trying to move higher, the S&P, and the Dow was trying to sell off. It was the weakest market. So that also showed up on our alpha bias here. as the weakest market. So you can see the weakest market right now as Sunday night market has reopened here. Mid caps and small caps are your weakest markets. You see at the top here, the Nasdaq is your stronger market. It does say the trends are down. Okay, trends are down and it's choppy. So we gather that information before the market opens. Dow was the weakest market. We had an outside gap down, and once the open happened, we broke out of this blue shaded area, which is the no trade zone. All right, so no trades are initiated inside. That's kind of a chop filter as well. But once price started breaking out, generated the signal, agreed with our traffic light filter here at the bottom. So there's a number of parameters that go into making sure that we're in a good position to take that short side of the trade. The software then executes the trade for us, and you can see the first targets hit here. All right, so 2 contracts are taken off, and the final, I actually just moved the stop to break even, and we broke even on that second, the third contract, or the second leg of the trade. Now later, the software generated another sell signal to the downside. Now this was around 11 o'clock. All right, we'd like to just try to gauge the open, take that first trade, and kind of be done with the day so you can go on with your day. But if you're sticking around, you can see we had another short trade, actually a couple of short trades that fired off. If you had shorted those, this one got more follow through. All right, you can see it all went down to this fib target here before things started consolidating and then broke down, formed a little W pattern, and then rallied into the next day. Right, but that's the tendency on an outside gap down. When the market opens below the prior day's range, below the prior day's low, it gives you a short bias, and we can just set the software to trade to the short side, take the next short trade, and it will manage the trade from there. All right, all the links to the software, you can download it for free for NinjaTrader 7 and NinjaTrader 8, which is in beta currently. And then if you become proficient, you can use the tools in our Discord server that are free. We have a trading floor that we run around 9 o'clock. We start in the morning. You can be part of that and learn how to use the software, not just the automated part, but also if you're looking to use some filters to gauge whether you should be long or short and which market you should be long or short. So once you're competent in putting all that together and you want a live license, so you can use this as long as you want in sim mode, but if you want a live license, you can purchase that or you can lease that. All right, and the links to join the Discord server, that's all below. All right, so we hope to see you in that in the trading floor, and have a great week. We'll see you back next week.